Here at Bitcoin on Point, we are active in a trading environment during this market volatility. Now, one position is completely risk-free and still running. Another trade has just triggered exactly as planned. And our third trade, well, I exited at break even before things turned ugly. Now, this is not random trading. This is structured execution. And at the same time, Bitcoin is sitting at a level that could decide whether we see a bounce from 61K or a deeper move that changes the entire structure. Weekly pressure is building, daily momentum is weakening, and lower time frames are breaking support. This is not a normal phase. This is a decision phase. Welcome to Bitcoin on Point, where I break down the market in real time and emotion free. In today's video, I will show you why the weekly Bitcoin structure is turning dangerous, why the daily rejection is a serious warning sign, why I also protected capital on Ethereum, our SPX trade is now a risk-free runner, and how Pump could be setting up for expansion. You'll understand exactly where we stand and exactly how we're positioning. And if this breakdown helps you stay ahead of the market, smash that like button and subscribe if you want that clean, structured daily analysis. Now, all our live entries, exits, and management updates are positioned instantly inside the free Telegram. The links are in the description. Now, before we get into the content, as always, we're going to dive into the macro backdrop and its developments, which are getting pretty crazy. A billionaire once bought a small piece of land using Bitcoin. Now, today, that same Bitcoin would be worth $1 billion. So let that sink in. Never underestimate Bitcoin, guys. Now, it gets even bigger. The US White House has reportedly said that gold reserves may be used to purchase Bitcoin. If gold, the traditional store of value, starts being rotated into Bitcoin, that isn't speculation. That's transition. Now, the UAE has also just revealed mining $453 million worth of Bitcoin. So this is no longer retail hype. This is a sovereign rate. Bitcoin is becoming the new oil. So countries are accumulating, governments are positioning, and institutions are moving. So, and while most people are still debating the charts, nations are stacking. Now let's go back to the structure, because when macro and structure align, the move is set to get explosive. And we're going to start by analyzing Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. It's very evident to see that Bitcoin is witnessing significant downside pressure, which is leading to the potential of market structure shifts. What we have on this fractal is this upper resistance trend line, which was created back in the previous all-time highs of 2021. Now, whenever Bitcoin has rallied into this resistance trend line, this has led to breakdowns or sharp corrections. Now, we did have this ascending level of support, and 110K was the sign, or the warning sign, should I say, of actually losing that level of support and entering into this downwards trajectory. So we was holding these higher low formations ever since sort of September of 2024. We got really, really tight and compressed into an apex, and this is where Bitcoin tapped 123K and then lost ascending support and has broke down. So the next target we're actually looking for, right, since breaking down from this structure, is essentially coming back down to where the structure started to form, right? Now, this does sit between sort of 60 to 55K, and the target that we have is roughly $61,000, right? Because it would tie up with bouncing on this support trend line that was created back in December of 2022. And at the same time, it would be bringing Bitcoin back down to a key level of demand, which in the past led to new all-time highs. So is this just a rally into resistance for an ABC, a potential macro ABC correction for Bitcoin back down to key levels of support before looking for the expansion? Or if we lose this sort of level, this is where things get really dangerous and Bitcoin's looking to enter into a deeper market structure shift and at least look to pull back towards the sort of 40 to 43K region from the highs back in January of 2024. So this is a critical inflection point on the chart. 61K is the target that we are analyzing in the short term to see potential relief, but losing it would signify a market structure shift and continued bearish momentum. So that's how important it actually is here, guys, right? Now, taking this information over to the daily time frame. The daily is showing clear warning signs. Now, the reason for this is we had a bullish order block at 67K we was analyzing in the video yesterday. And we were saying that if Bitcoin secured a daily close above this order block and reclaimed this previous trend line, that would signal a move back up to 72K resistance, which is the main level to clear to look for a bullish market structure shift at 80K. However, price had other ideas and Bitcoin has lost the bullish order block on the daily here and has closed below it. So this signifies continued downward pressure and likelihood of retracing back down into our weekly bullish order block, which here on the daily sits roughly at 61K and is that target we was looking at on the trend line of support from this multi-year fractal. So there is weakness, the bullish order block has been lost, 61K, and the weekly bullish order block is now the potential target. And again, if we are to see any relief from that point, 72K remains the imminent short-term resistance to actually start looking bullish in the short term. Now, a quick update on our trading challenge where we're taking an account, from $10,000 to $100,000, and everything is tracked live and transparent on this Profits Precision dashboard. We've now taken 5 trades and have a total of $809 in profit. So the account is up 8%, and we recently secured our SPX long with roughly $130 in profit. All of the execution is tracked live in my free Telegram, so make sure to click the links in the description and head over there. Otherwise, you're missing out on all of these opportunities. Now, with that in mind, let's dive into Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. Now, the 4-hour has just given us a breakdown and retest scenario. So we had this ascending level of support that Bitcoin initially was holding ever since it marked these lows back in early February, and we was hoping essentially that they held as support, right? But Bitcoin did have other ideas, and this wasn't the case. We had a level of support, a level of resistance, a level of support. It's that 72K resistance, right? And then we was looking for the continued bounce and actually taking out 72K, but that didn't happen. Instead, what Bitcoin's actually done is lost the ascending support line, broke down from it, right? Confirmed it in a retest as resistance, and is now looking to retrace to deeper targets, and i.e. the 61K that we're looking at on both the weekly and the daily time frame, right? So that it all ties together in one package. So the fact that we've broken down and retested a previous support line as resistance does signify that we are seeing significant downside momentum, or the potential for it, right? Now, I do have a Fibonacci on from the 72K high back down to the 60K low from the 6th of February. And there are some support targets here that are also very interesting on the way down to 61 from losing this support, right? So first off, we have 66K, which you can see was a level of support literally in the last 24 hours. The Bitcoin has seen relief, but continues to place lower highs. So there is still depleting buying pressure. But failing that, we do have a level below that sits at 64K and then also 62K at the 0786. So all of these offer short-term potentials to mark a higher low. However, 61K is the primary target to mark a point of contact on this ascending support line and also tap back into the lows from September of 2024. So Bitcoin's picture is building. We're waiting for these reactions. There is downside pressure across multiple time frames, and we're just watching, waiting for that interesting reaction in our support areas. Now, with Bitcoin wrapped up, let's look at our Ethereum trade. Now, Ethereum failed to hold support properly, right? There's too much consolidation inside the support zone, not enough impulsive reactions here, so that the structure's pretty weak. So I protected our capital, right? I made a break-even exit, pretty much. And that has 0 loss. So what this essentially was a setup we was watching. It didn't come into fruition, but we've protected our capital. And this is professional risk management. If the market gives a better structure later, that's when we re-enter, right? But we don't marry trades. Now, heading over to our second trade, SPX. And now this trade delivered exactly as planned. And TP1 was actually hit. So we secured 50%. And that was around $130 for our trades. And we moved our stop loss up to break even. Again, capital protection. And the worst case here now is pretty much 0 loss, right? The best case, we ride the remaining position up to our higher targets, back to TP2, TP1, so on and so forth, right? So this is how you actually compound with safety. Now, just like we discussed in previous videos, pump, our third trade setup, is consolidating, which has led to manipulation, right? So what we've actually seen here for pump is we've got this ascending level of resistance and an ascending level of support. Pump ran into resistance, consolidated in a potential B wave, and has now seen a C wave drop back down to the ascending level of support. So we corrected, B wave relief, which was the consolidation, and now it looks like we've got the C wave correction back down to this black trend line. Now, we do have this yellow trend line here as support, which was the previous highs from not so long ago on the 12th of February, roughly at 0.0019. And if we do lose this black trend line, that could offer a deviation before a bounce and bringing us back into this trend and hopefully rallying to our TP1 and TP2 targets. So this one's pretty much structured beautifully, right? Great support, liquidity is being built, and now the expansion phase is loading. So let's take this all back to profits position, because we started with 10K, guys, and we're now $800 in profit, 8% growth, 5 total trades, 5 wins, a 100% win rate, 0 downtime. And this is all done live in my Telegram. Every entry, exit, and every update is posted in real time. So to summarize the video, weekly structure is returning back to 61K and prior September lows as support, which is a critical inflection point. We have the daily time frame, which is signaling bearish momentum back down into our weekly bullish order block with 61K waiting below. The 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin is a closer zoomed in perspective of a clear breakdown and retest, with fib support waiting below before the 61K target is hit. ETH is capital protected and with a break-even exit. SPX has had TP1 secured, is risk-free, and a runner that is still active. And Pump has triggered, and we're simply waiting for that expansion phase, which is potentially loading back down here at support. Guys, don't estimate what's happening right now. Governments are talking about Bitcoin, countries are mining it, and institutions are positioning. And I'm executing this all live. So if you're watching this and you're not inside the Telegram, you're just missing out on all of these opportunities, right? Big moves don't send invitations. They move. So join the Telegram, be positioned before all of the breakouts and trade setups that we are actually analyzing. This is the moment, guys, where preparation pays. I'll see you inside the next update.